Would you please rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of Bowling Green City Council. We welcome you all here this evening. Thank you for coming. Kay, would you please begin by calling the roll?
Osbacher.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Jeffers.
Here.
McComber.
Here.
Roland.
Here.
Zanfordino.
Here.
The minutes of the regular meeting that was held on July 18th, 2016 were distributed to council prior to this meeting. Are there any amendments or corrections to these minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. The minutes are approved as presented. Kay, do we have correspondence this evening?
Yes, received from Teresa Charters-Gavarone is a letter addressed to Mayor Edwards, members of the council, and the clerk of council. Please accept this letter as my formal resignation from my position as the 4th Ward council member. My last day with council will be Friday, July 29th, 2016. As you are aware, I have been appointed to serve as state representative, and my duties in that position require my attention prior to that date. I will be unable to serve on city council after Friday. In order to ease the transition, I would be happy to meet with you and any potential candidates for a council seat beyond that date. Working with each of you and serving the people of Bowling Green in this capacity has provided valuable experience that will strengthen my position as a state representative when I am sworn into office on August 2nd, 2016. I am grateful to have been part of a team that created nearly 1,000 jobs and addressed numerous concerns for our residents over the past 2.5 years. It's been a pleasure working with you on City Council, and I look forward to continuing that relationship as I address the concerns of Wood County and Columbus. Sincerely, Teresa Charters-Gavarone. And then also distributed to you prior to the meeting were budget transfers to be made for this month, and those need your approval.
Is there a motion to approve the budget transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. The budget transfers are presented as, or are approved as presented.
And also distributed to you prior to the meeting was the financial budget summary report for the month of June 2016. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Kay. As it relates to Teresa Gavarone's resignation statement, obviously, we're very thankful of Teresa's contributions while she was a member of City Council, and we wish her well in Columbus. As it relates to appointing, the process to appoint her successor, there will be a press release that will go out tomorrow, or maybe even yet tonight. I think maybe Kay could distribute that, detailing that process. We're going to ask those that are interested in submitting their application and their resume to submit those to Kay Sherrick, our clerk of council. And we're going to create a deadline of that of 4:30 p.m. on August 8th. At that point, those will be distributed to council for review and consideration. And then prior to our regularly scheduled meeting on August 15th, we would like to schedule a committee of the whole meeting to begin at 6 o'clock, where we would ask those that are interested in seeking the appointment to give a very brief presentation to council. And we will then consider the matter of making the appointment in the meeting that would follow, beginning at 7 p.m. on that same night. So thank you. And that, as I mentioned, that will be released to the media at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. Thank you. Is that the end of correspondence, Kay?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Moving into our official reports, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of council, and all assembled. I really don't have a formal report for you this evening. I've been playing hooky a little bit. That's my excuse. I could tell you about the placement of trash cans at Lakeside, Ohio, but I covered the whole of the grounds there. Very interesting. I had a hard time seeing them unless they were out on the curb at the appropriate time. I do have a bit of good news for you tonight for your consideration. And I'm going to ask Chief Hetrick and our Municipal Administrator, Lori Treader, to please come up so they can expand or amplify on what I'm about to say here a little bit. But we recently had a visit from the CALEA assessment team. CALEA stands for Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. And as you well know, the city of Bowling Green has been nationally, internationally accredited by CALEA for since 23 years, right there. See, I knew it was a long time, but I didn't realize it was 23 years. Thank you, Chief, for that. But the assessment team was comprised of Lieutenant Colonel Robert Johnson. He's retired from the Illinois State Police, and Captain Brad Fisher from Shelby, North Carolina Police Department. They completed their on-site assessment of the Bowling Green Police Division on July 27th. And during the exit interview with Chief Hetrick and members of the police command staff, Lieutenant Colonel Johnson indicated that the police division was in compliance with all CALEA standards and that no changes or problems were encountered with the administration or operations of the agency. The commission will make the final determination on reaccreditation, and Chief Hetrick will appear before the commission on November 5th, 2016, to receive the award in Charleston, South Carolina. And I know that you'll hear from a moment from both Lori and the chief, but how much they appreciated all of the men and women of the Bowling Green Police Division for their outstanding work during the assessment period. And I know that a number of people from the community and various civic leaders took time to call or appear in person to support the police division in this rather rigorous process. It's and I'll let Tony give you a little bit more detail on that, but to do this on a periodic basis. But the important thing is that it's really good news, and we came through with flying colors at this time, as we know, on a national basis when the focus is on so many of our police departments. And we hear time and time again the importance of training and conditioning and paying attention to what's going on in the community, being in a sense the eyes and ears of the community, and to share with elected public officials and what's going on and so forth there, but working in concert at all times with the community. And so this, I think, bodes well for not only certainly our Bowling Green Police Division, but our community as a whole. And Lori and Tony, if you would please expand upon this just a little bit, and wish either one.
Well, I'll let Tony give the specific thanks and shouts out to his department. But just on behalf of all of your coworkers here at the City of Bowling Green, we congratulate you. We are very proud of you. We know this doesn't happen by accident. This happens by hard work. It starts with the City Council and the appropriation annually that's given to support the police division. One of the things when I was talking to the assessors that they mentioned is our continued focus on training and education of our officers and how important that is. And that comes from funding. It is important. Our community has been a great supporter, a great partner with our police division, and they have worked hard to uphold those standards that the community holds them to. So we are so proud of you, and congratulations. We know it's not official yet, but it was very good news, and just made us all very proud. And we'll let you speak, Tony.
Thank you very much. CALEA is a way of life in the Bowling Green Police Division now. There isn't anybody there employed who has not worked under the CALEA standards, and I'll tell you, there's a lot that goes into it. It's a 3-year progression from the time you're accredited until your on-site assessment occurs. And in that 3 years, you have to collect all manner of data. There's quarterly, annual, biannual reports on various things, including use of force, critical incidents, just basically how we do our job and how we interact with the community. And I'm very proud of the men and women of the Bowling Green Police Division. They do an outstanding job. They always step up, and they always go the extra mile. And I couldn't ask any more of a department than what we have here. We always strive for excellence and try to do our best to serve the community. And as Tom Vitavi used to say, we don't police the community, we police for the community. And I think that the CALEA team saw that, and they commented on how much engagement we have, and how little use of force that we use compared to other agencies in the United States. I think his figure was in 2,700 contacts, we'll have maybe one use of force. We've had 50 in the last 3 years, and we've had over 90,000 calls for service. So that's what we're doing out there. We're working very hard. I'd like to thank Dan Mancuso. Lieutenant Mancuso is my Services Bureau commander. He's also the accreditation manager. It falls on him to put together the assessment, and he collects all the paperwork, puts the files together, and really makes sure that the assessment is conducted in an efficient manner. So a special thanks to him. And lastly, again, I'd like to thank the community, because we have received so much support over the last 6 months. In light of all the national events that are occurring, we might have one or two people in the community who don't like what we're doing, but I can tell you the overwhelming majority have really come out to show their support for us, and for that we're very grateful, so thank you.
Mr. President, members of council, that concludes my report, unless you have some questions for me.
Other questions for the mayor?
After the meeting, I'll be excited to know where Lakeside does keep their garbage cans.
Well, I hope no one thought I was snooping, but going through the neighborhoods, going through trash can. No, I did. Well, it's all very interesting how communities deal with this, and that's a very special community up there. So, thank you.
I'd just like to say, to add my word of thanks and appreciation to Chief Hetrick and the entire division for that accomplishment. Not at all surprised. It's not, if you're paying attention, doesn't take a lot of effort to see the professionalism with which all of our officers use and all of their interactions with the public. And although we come to expect that, we sometimes take it for granted, but I try very hard not to. And in light of, as you mentioned, all of the incidents that are getting national discussion nowadays, it really is comforting to know that we have such an outstanding force in our town that I do believe takes great pride and goes the extra step in communicating with our citizens. So thank you and all of your officers for that. Welcome. Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
Good evening again. As discussed at a council meeting earlier this summer, the changeover in City Parking Lot 2 to a kiosk system is continuing. The paving has been completed in that lot and the striping, and the kiosks have been ordered. We expect that everything will be installed sometime in September. Don't worry, the lot will be fully ready for the Black Swamp Arts Festival. Everyone on staff, I'm making eye contact with all of them. They've all promised. We know that's such a great community event. So if you've been down there, you'll notice that it does look different, and it will be a changeover and educational opportunity for us, for our citizens too. But again, as we discussed earlier this summer, we do think it will be a positive for a lot of reasons here in the city. The only other thing on my list is to request an executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss a real estate matter.
So is parking free for now in lot 2?
It is, but time enforcements will continue, and we will be posting signage now that the paving is done to that effect, so folks know where the 2-hour parking is being enforced and where it's a 10-hour area.
Questions for Lori? Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Director, Ms. Saylor.
Good evening again. As most of you are aware, we had our consultants have their first visit on Thursday and Friday to Bowling Green in regards to the neighborhood plan. We actually had a really packed 2 days for them, and I counted that they both saw 35 different people in 2 days. So that just tells you the amount of key stakeholders we met with. That was really just scratching the surface. Though we still have many more people to talk to, but we do appreciate those able to give their time, and I hope most of you enjoyed meeting them. I know Bob's the only one left. We got to get them together. Just wanted to pass out, though, the representations. You can see who they met with in 2 days. Additionally, we are looking at having a community meeting at the end of August. We don't have a date yet officially, but just wanted to give you some forewarning on that. We'll have hopefully a location soon and the date and the time. We're real excited about bringing that out into a community open house type of forum. Additionally, we will have to consider a task force. So in the next few weeks, we will be looking at a broad, diverse group of a task force that will certainly be working on with broad representation and you all will help us determine that along with the mayor and advisement from our consultants. We also want to let you know we do not have a planning commission meeting or a zoning board in August, so we got a little bit of break there due to lack of agenda items. I also want to make sure you saw that I gave you quite a lengthy report from the ITGA conference. I finally got that together, so if you have any questions after reviewing that, please let me know. Additionally, on June 20th, Lori Bruce and I and the Chamber and 2 people from the university attended the first International Town Gown Association sponsored Ohio Summit. I thought that was a good day of networking and getting some ideas. We didn't really get in depth. That was probably the most disappointing thing, is that we got some great ideas, but we really didn't have enough time to learn more about other college towns. But I do see it happening again, and hopefully in Bowling Green in the next few years or so. Additionally, Not in Our Town Bowling Green is having an event along with the school district. We're really excited about it on August 11th from 6:30 to 7:30 in the lobby of the Performing Arts Center. You may have saw that in the new Not in Our Town Bowling Green digest that just went out today. So hopefully you're able to attend that. We're real excited about that event too. Otherwise, thank you. Unless you have any questions, I'm done.
Questions for Heather?
Heather, I just want to comment on the Town Gown Association meeting. You said there wasn't a lot of depth, and that's probably because you're an expert in that area. To me, to be honest, I was happy to go, but I wasn't really necessarily expecting a lot. And so I felt there was a lot more in it for me than I expected. And mainly it was hearing from Athens and Oxford and Ohio State, and even how they were dealing with some of their housing issues. We didn't really get into specifics of maintenance and so forth, but just the kind of relationships they've tried to establish, so they're not just butting heads and they're trying to work together. And one last comment on that, I think what we did see in several of these cities is the ability to get the city government, the universities, and some of the developers and landlords working on the same page. I think in Ohio, in Columbus, they said they had something like, 40 or 50 landlords show up to these meetings that could look just like softball meetings or something, but they were serious about trying to make some changes. So I was encouraged by that. I just wanted to say that.
Great. I also have an article about the summit that I can forward it to you. It was actually in the Jackson County newspaper because Athens did sponsor it. They were a big part of organizing it. So it gives you a little bit of details. We actually had the president of Ohio University there, who was a wonderful speaker and I thought very passionate, and I thought it was really good to hear from inspirational folks like him.
Thank you, Heather. Parks and Recreation Director, Ms. Otley.
Good evening. All right, so there's a lot going on, but I revised a few times to cut my report down so it's not quite so long. You guys don't need to applause. But our foundation is having another fundraiser, this time at Sunset Bistro, and all you have to do is show up and eat. Here's some flyers, and that is for both lunch and dinner, so anytime between 11 and I believe 9 o'clock. You do need to present that flyer with you, so we'll have some more out there, and they will donate 20% of food purchase to the foundation, so we appreciate them doing that. To a night where you don't have to cook, and you can help out the foundation, so it's a win-win. There will be a ribbon cutting on August 25th at 4 o'clock for the new building out at the Nature Preserve. It is not quite officially open to the public. As soon as a valve goes in to the flushing component of the toilet, it'll be ready to go. But our staff is using the storage part of the building, so our foundation is hosting a ribbon cutting on August 25th at 4 o'clock. So the chamber will be getting out invitations to that, but just wanted you all to mark your calendars. On behalf of the Levy Committee, one thing they wanted me to share with everyone is that if you would like to their Facebook and Twitter accounts, it is Parks, capital P, 4, as in the number, and BG, capital BG. So that's both a Facebook page and a Twitter account. And if you are not following my Twitter account, it's at Kristen Otley. But you have to spell Kristen correctly, so that's a test. 2 I's. Capital K, capital O. And so I am daily trying to post a picture from somewhere within our park system. So some of them are more amusing than others, so feel free to check that out. Our athletic fields behind the community center kicked off about 2 weeks ago. We had our Challenger soccer camp out there, And so soccer season, those are game fields at 4 acres. Soccer season begins August 22nd. We have at least one local club that their travel teams will be playing their home games there. So those are for game fields. They will still practice out at Dunbridge. And just a couple thank you, shout outs to other departments. I've been a department head for over a year now, hard to believe. And I am continually thankful for the support and the cooperation that we have here within the city. Our fire department helped us with a live pool drill. I've heard from a few folks that were there that they really did think that there was an incident, and our staff handled it perfectly. That's what they trained for. So that was a couple weeks ago. And so the fire department was in on that, and it went swimmingly, shall we say. The Public Works Department, I want to thank them. If you haven't been to City Park recently, we worked together and they removed some arborvitae in the front part of the park there that was really overgrown and actually kind of detrimental to sight lines for both walkers and drivers, and kind of hiding the nice monument behind there. And with those gone, we're going to be doing some repair work on that inner wall, and then also the outer stone wall as soon as our contractor is available. So I did want to thank them for that, and we've gotten a few compliments from the community on that, just especially people walking in the park, that they can see around that curve and know that they're not going to get hit. So, unless you have questions for me. Go ahead.
Questions for Kristen?
Thanks.
Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. Marsh. Questions for Mr. Marsh? Thank you. Utilities Director, Mr. O'Connell.
Just want to give you an update on the water treatment plant. We replaced the green activated carbon. 6 of the 12 vessels got replaced back in June of this year, and we had budgeted for replacing the remaining 6 in August, and that work is ongoing this week. So that effort was a result of our anticipation of high occurrences of microcystin in the reservoir, which we've experienced in the past years. We haven't experienced that this year, but we're still moving forward with that because we have yet to go through the rest of the summer, and that algae issue can go into September and even October. So to try to combat that problem. But basically, we've got all of our treatment processes to take care of the microcystin issues. Been replaced this year with the RO replacement earlier, half the GAC in June, the other half this year. So we're in a good position for anything that may come up the plant. Everything's working normally, and we're not experiencing any problems at this point in time. That's all I've got, unless you have questions.
Questions for Brian? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Works Director, Mr. Kraft.
Good evening. Got an update for East Gypsy Lane. That was closed several Mondays ago on July 18th for 3 weeks. This past Saturday, we got some curb down Saturday morning. Under drains are in. This week, they're going to start putting some black base in there around those curbs. And we got some pole foundations going in for traffic signals. A lot of the underground wiring is being bored in as we speak. Still on target to get that open by next Monday. That east leg of East Gypsy Lane, and the project should wrap up, somewhere in that 6 to 8 week period beyond that. Our sidewalk crews are continuing work on the 50/50 program. We're down on Haskins Road. We're now over on Scott Hamilton by St. Mark's, doing that whole block between South College and Crim, heading over to Crim School, making that a 4-foot wide walk into a 5-foot wide walk, and also pulling it away from the curb. So St. Mark's paid for a portion of that as well. We still got walks to do on North Maple, Lehman, South Summit, Cardinal, and several on Buttonwood. So we're probably about halfway through the 50/50 sidewalk program. So this month is going to be busy for us with the a lot of the events we support with the tractor pull and the fair and the soccer challenges and the Oak Grove Living History Day and all those things coming up. So it'll be a busy month for Public Works, and we're ready to roll. That's my report, unless you have any questions of me.
No questions, just a comment. It seems as though you've had an active year in the 50/50 sidewalk program.
Yeah, what's funny is you start and neighbors come and say, "What can I get on board?" And Unfortunately, we're already ready, committed to go to somewhere else, so it's kind of like it advertises itself wherever you go. We were on Haskins last year, did some more this year, and I've always got neighbors already saying, well, put me on for next year. So it'd be nice if we could do it all at once, but right now we're trying not to force people to get on it because there's ample walks out there that just need fixed that people are voluntarily calling us for. So, but I think the product kind of sells itself, and the guys are doing a great job with keeping the disruptions to a minimum and getting things repaired quick and getting out, moving on to the next one. And I think people can see that.
Yeah, I know that this is the second year, I believe, where you've been pretty active with that since it's been restored. I'll be anxious maybe at the end of the season to kind of get maybe a comprehensive report for
Sure.
the last 2 years of the number of properties that have been affected by that.
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, it's, it's obviously going back a couple years, it's been a point of discussion, the need to really hammer away at replacing and upgrading sidewalks in the community. I'm really pleased that we're making some progress, understanding it's a big job and we're just kind of probably scratching the tip of the iceberg, but we're making progress,
Yeah,
I
there's
think.
definitely not a shortage of work. We met with the people on North Maple that already were on the list. While we're out there with our FlexiPave we just did on Eberly, we started looking at about 5 or 6 locations on North Maple where the sidewalk lifts are caused by the city trees.
Mhm.
So we will do, some people on the program will get FlexiPave, and other people that were not going to be on the program will have FlexiPave where the city sidewalk is being lifted by city trees. So North Maple will be a good example of hopefully doing all that without losing a single tree and promoting the growth of the tree instead of cutting roots and that sort of thing. So
Great.
good test market.
Thanks. Any
Brian,
questions?
if I remember right, refresh my memory a little bit, but I'm thinking that, I don't know, a year or two ago, you had talked about sending some of your supervisors out to identify the worst sidewalks in the
Mhm.
city. We're going to look at the west side one year and the east side the next year, or vice versa. Did we go, are we still sort of following that program, or has this 50-50 program, and given that it's been used quite a bit, it appears, sort of superseded that?
That, and when Columbia Gas came in and overtook the whole west end of town, we gave up, we called them the 50 worst sidewalks. So Columbia Gas came in, so we shifted over to the east side, and then it just kind of kept snowballing into people calling us saying, hey, can you get me on the board? And several of them, there's 2 on Buttonwoods, I would say were in that top 50. And I wrote them a letter, and they voluntarily paid. At some point, we're going to have to flip that switch a little bit to where the letter's a little more stern, that either you're going to fix it or we will by a certain deadline. We don't like to do that, and since we have so many people voluntarily want to get on the program, we haven't started that. So we haven't lost sight of it, but yet it is taking care of sidewalks that are in that neighborhood. And doing the walks on Eberly was not an accident, because Eberly is a perfect example where we probably could go about 10 homes in a row and do some of those. And we like to do 10 in a row, and we like to have it be voluntary, but there's some stretches down there where it just looks like the sidewalks are just crumbling apart.
Mhm.
And hopefully that first round show people what it can look like, and they'll kind of buy into what we want to do. So
Yeah, I mean, I go down that street fairly frequently driving, and sometimes when I take a walk, or when I used to have a dog and walk the dog, went down that all the time. And I
Yeah.
know I could
yeah,
tick off a couple of properties that
yeah,
clearly the sidewalks look like they're crumbling.
right, literally. So appreciate the comments.
Any other questions for Brian?
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our official reports. We move forward with the introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. McComber.
from the Finance Committee, I have a resolution transferring previously appropriated funds, and I have an ordinance amending and adopting Section 33.07A of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding pre-employment medical examination and drug screening.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have any council committee reports this evening?
Mr. President,
Mr. Zanfordino.
as discussed, I'd like to request a Transportation and Safety Committee meeting in our first meeting in September, which would, of course, be September 6th, given the holiday on the Monday. I wanted to see if we could meet at 6 o'clock on that day.
Yes.
Look okay?
Mhm.
Okay, we'll schedule that, John.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. You said it's 6 o'clock, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The subject matter?
Complete streets.
Okay, do we also have a planning zoning public hearing that night? I think we do for
It's 6:45 on that day. I'm
45.
pretty sure there's something.
Okay, thanks, John.
Sure.
The additional committee reports. Seeing none, we move forward to lobby visitation. At this point, we welcome anyone in attendance that is interested to address council. To do so at this time, if you're interested, we would ask that you approach the microphone and clearly state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone that would like to address council this evening? Okay, we move forward to the reading of legislation.
Legislation for first reading. Resolution number 3635 for first reading. Resolution transferring previously appropriated funds.
Mr. President,
Mr. McComber.
I move we suspend the rules and give Resolution 3635 its second and third readings.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Kay, would you please call the roll?
Gordon?
Yes.
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes. The motion passes. The rules are suspended for Resolution 3635.
Resolution number 3635 for second and third reading. Resolution transferring previously appropriated funds.
Mr. President,
Mr. McComber.
I move to adopt Resolution 3635.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Kay, would you please call the roll?
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
The motion passes. Resolution 3635 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8595 for first reading. Ordinance amending and adopting Section 33.07A of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding pre-employment medical examination and drug screening. Legislation for second reading. Resolution number 3633 for second reading. Resolution adopting and authorizing amendments to the Community Development Block Grant Housing Policy and Procedures Manual. Resolution number 3634 for second reading. Resolution adopting and authorizing an amended Housing Revolving Loan Fund Program Policy and Procedures Manual. Ordinance number 8593 for second reading. Ordinance amending and adopting sections 150.40 and 150.103 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding the zoning code. Ordinance number 8594 for second reading. Ordinance amending and adopting Chapter 94 of the codified ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding refuse and recycling collection.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
at this time, I would like to invite my fellow members of council to continue our discussion about this legislation, particularly my fellow members of the Community Improvement Committee, to discuss what we learned from consulting with other communities about how they enforce their refuse collection ordinances. And I know we also have some legislation or language suggested to amend this legislation that I would like us to consider as well. So at this time, if any members would like to speak to either of those items.
Sure, I'll start off. It's I didn't really speak to anybody, but I looked up the ordinances in a number of cities, and it's pretty obvious that every other community I could find that regulates the placement of trash containers uses some sort of a fine system to enforce their regulations. It may be part of a civil infractions code, although there are a number of cities that don't have a civil infractions code, so they have to call it a misdemeanor and put it in the criminal justice system because there's no other alternative. But the end result is people that don't comply with the regulation get fined, usually in an escalating manner, you know, so much for the first offense, something more than that for the second offense, and goes up to the third or fourth offense and, you know, gets a larger fine each time. I didn't find anybody that goes the route of confiscating the trash containers. That apparently somewhat of a novel idea. That doesn't mean that that's the route we have to go, but I think that's the common way to enforce this. And you know, we do have the civil infractions code, and I would add, when I look at other things that are civil infractions, that this, in my mind, just fits right into that kind of a category. It's very similar to other things that are civil infractions in Bowling Green. So I certainly wouldn't object to going that route. I'll throw one thing, as long as I'm talking, I'll throw one other possibility out. I'm not so much promoting this as just suggesting it to see if other people like it or don't like it. Since we've talked about these two enforcement systems, fines versus confiscating the containers, I know as I thought about it, one of the things that bothered me about confiscating the containers was that it seemed like a pretty extreme thing to do, a pretty harsh penalty, even though people could get the containers back after paying a fine. And I wondered if others of you might be interested in a system where we go with a warning for the first offense, maybe we go with a fine for the second offense, a larger fine for the third offense, then confiscate the containers for a fourth offense, and again, people can get them back by paying a larger fine, but we save the most extreme penalty until we're up to the fourth offense. I don't feel too badly about taking somebody's containers away by the fourth offense because they've shown they're going to basically disregard the ordinance. So I think something more extreme might be warranted. And I would even suggest that if we were going to take the containers away, that if we were to do that we should take them both, the trash container and the recycling container, so nobody's tempted to just start putting their trash in the recycling container. So again, I'm not particularly promoting that idea, but it made sense to me. And if the rest of you like it, we could do something along that route. If you don't, we can go with the fines or the confiscating the container system. I'm not hung up on the enforcement system. I'm going to end up being in favor of this legislation, regardless of what enforcement mechanism we use. So those are some thoughts.
Well, thanks, Bob. I left my notes at home, so I'll be thankfully brief, but I contacted or reviewed 9 different cities or villages and spoke to 4 of them and have a summary of all 9, I guess. But all 9 that I spoke to or just reviewed have either a civil infraction or a misdemeanor for violating, say, trash can placement. Or other aspects of their ordinances. At the last meeting, I was certainly hoping that we would consider civil infractions, and I was happy to see that that's the norm out there. The audience doesn't know this, but we do have revised language tonight, which is a revision to what was presented last time, which is stating the penalty being changed to civil infractions. I certainly was heartened to see that. I think that it might be harsh to take somebody's can, but it's also very labor intensive and I think very inefficient way to try to deal with what could be originally a glut of cans. Personally, I'm real happy with the revised language. I've certainly found it supported in the calls and reviews I did. And personally, I would rather just go with the language that we have rather than the suggestion there, mostly because I think confiscating would be, again, cost inefficient for us. And most of the folks I'm talking to feel like once a warning is issued, 9 out of 10 people pretty much take care of it. So how many people are really ever going to get to a fourth offense would remain to be seen. It would be very surprising.
We're talking about an enforcement mechanism here, which sounds kind of negative, but I think we'll end up finding once something's enacted that we'll have widespread voluntary compliance.
I think so too.
Yeah, Bob, John, my experience has been identical to yours. I haven't yet found a community that has the kind of confiscatory or the approach where you confiscate the containers. It's just been the civil infraction system. So, I'm personally in favor of proceeding with that kind of language for our legislation here. I'm not particularly opposed to Bob's suggestion either, though. So I'm interested to know what other council members feel.
My thoughts about confiscating initially were good. I thought that sounds like a really good idea. They can't make a mess with what they don't have. But then I thought about the mess they could make because they don't have the receptacle. And I think the kind of people who are going to willingly violate the warning, the first, second, and third offense, are not the type of people that are going to do anything other than leave the trash lay around the property, take it to someone else's property and dump it, throw it on a neighbor's property. I'm hearing a lot of that is taking place right now with junk and large items. So I think we have to be cautious about that, and that we could be creating another problem we're going to have to address. So I'm perfectly willing to go with the civil infractions only.
I'm also comfortable with the civil infraction approach. After talking with Lori and Brian Kraft recently, one thing that impressed me was that from their perspective, when we start talking about the enforcement mechanism of these, the amendment of Section 94, that it's their great desire that the infraction, the enforcement mechanism won't be necessary, because they intend to work very hard to educate the residents what, the new requirements are going to be. And I'm confident that once they go through the process, and Lori could speak to that a little bit more for us if we wanted to, because she has given a great amount of consideration to, what the education element is going to be. But I do think it's important that we work hard. We don't really want to have to cite anybody, but I think that the process that we have in place does seem fair, and I'm perfectly content with it just the way it's written in front of us tonight.
Okay, at this point, I'll withdraw my suggestion. I'll ask another question, though, in regards to if we're going to go with the language that, or something akin to the language Mike drew up for us. Do you think the amount of the fine is the appropriate amount? After a warning, we start with $25, then go to $50, then go to $100.
Is that dictated by policy already? It is dictated to us by policy?
Dictated by what?
Okay, so, okay, yeah. Yeah, are we in line with what other civil infractions are? Yeah, okay.
We start with the Class A civil infractions are $25 fines, Mike?
That's what Heather just said, so maybe
Okay.
we should start with 50. That's an education in itself.
I mean, I'm personally comfortable with what we have. I think, 98 out of 100 people are going to get a warning, and they're going to move their can. That's what I think we'll see. To those that, dig in their heels, $25 seems like a sufficient first fine to me. I like the fact it's incremental, and that's what all of our civil infractions are. So from, my thoughts, I'm comfortable with it as written.
Question about the lids being open. If it's not on collection day and their lids are open, we're going to go through this civil infraction process, and several different people are involved with the issuing the citation. Okay, and then if it's pickup day and the can's at the curb and the lid is up, we're not going to pick up the can, and there will be a citation. Both is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The citations also kick in on that end.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
My question, Mike, while you're answering, is on the fourth and subsequent violation within any 12-month period, a civil citation to the occupants and fine shall be $100 for each violation. What is the reason for the 12-month period, other than, I know that's logical for college students, that you would put it in a frame of a 12-month, but what was your reason for wanting it in 12 months? Okay.
There are other,
Actually, I just thought in the course of a year, there would be incremental increase. There wasn't any scientific.
there are other communities that word their ordinances similarly, that it's the second offense, third offense, fourth offense within a 12-month period.
Within a 12-month.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Well, that's like letting one, you know, I see people who will take advantage of that. You know, we can put, like, we can just do what we want now because we're back to the $25 mark again, you know? And some people don't think 25 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they
Is
get
that
a-
harder to enforce, though, if you have to keep records of 12? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if somebody has a violation in January and they have another one in April and another one in July and another one in November, when they get to January, they don't start with a clean slate in January. They've got.
Oh,
the-
that I
yeah, okay,
understand.
so
No,
they'll-
I get the 12-month
yeah, the
period.
next-
Yeah,
the next
it's
one
not
will
a
be
calendar
fourth
year.
also.
Yeah, it's not a calendar year. I just thought it was, you know, giving people who would take advantage of the enforcement system a break by getting to start all over again.
I could be wrong, but on the other hand, I really doubt anyone who's deliberately not complying with the ordinance is really thinking that hard about it.
That's, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think they have their calendars marked. I'll agree with you.
Well, it sounds like everybody's pretty happy with the alternative language that Mike drew up and going the civil infractions route and just going with it as it is, right? Anybody object to that kind of enforcement mechanism?
On enforcement, I'm 100% with it. Yes.
Okay.
I'm still not happy with the placement. I've made it very, very clear. I think that, you know, I read over the land use plan again this week, and I think Bowling Green deserves better. That's, you know, we're just going we're just doing a little bit better if we leave everyone have those cans on the side of the house, and they're, you know, we deserve to be the best. We don't need to set our limits or this low when we can be this high and we can accomplish it. Oh, read the ordinance. Oh.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, some of you don't know the way it's worded.
We haven't amended it yet.
Okay. We have a copy. We can read this. And Lori,
I
Yeah,
can
that would be
pass it
great.
around. I've got a few
Do you-
copies here.
Do you,
yeah.
you have it, Kay? You could read it for us, correct?
Sure.
Thank you, Kay.
This is in the penalty portion, which is 94.99, Section B. Whoever violates any provisions of 94.04 or 94.05 shall be subject to the following. First violation within any 12-month period, written warning affixed or mailed to the premises. Second violation within any 12-month period, a civil citation to the occupants and a fine of $25. Third violation within any 12-month period, a civil citation to the occupants and a fine of $50. Fourth and subsequent violation within any 12-month period, a civil citation to the occupants and a fine of $100 for each violation. Any law enforcement officer, the municipal administrator, or the municipal administrator's designee shall be authorized to issue citations for any violation of this section. For premises with privately collected refuse recycling containers, any violation shall result in a civil violation.
I can read the place, but I've got it in front of me here. This goes back a few meetings. 9405 covers the container storage location. Says on, Part A says, on non-collection days, all refuse containers, including dumpsters, whether city or privately owned, shall be stored within an enclosed area or in the side or rear yard as defined by the city zoning code of the premises adjacent to the structure with the lid closed. Mike, I wanted to just ask to make sure of this. As I read that enforcement section then with the civil citation thing, the citation will go to the occupants of a rental property, correct? But if we go through the civil citation or the civil infraction process and because they don't pay the fine, it would eventually end up on the property tax bill of the property owner. Is that correct? Okay, good. If nobody ever pays the fine, that's where it ends up. Yeah, I mean, that's the way we do it. That's what happens with the snow removal, isn't it? Okay.
So in those cases, it winds up going on the property owner who probably wasn't the.
Well, if it's not paid, yeah. Yeah. It's not
No,
protocol,
it's not.
sir. We're in the middle of a discussion here, excuse us.
I would also, I think an important part of that is later on in the ordinance, there is a waiver section where the municipal administrator can grant temporary or permanent waivers. And so I think that's an important part of this that makes me more comfortable with this language.
I agree, Bruce.
And it's up to the administrator to determine those worthy of the waiver. It's up to the sole discretion of the city administrator to determine who. Or a designee. Are you comfortable with that, Lori?
Okay, well, again, I would just say, Sandy, to your maybe it was second to last point, I think I'm with you when you say that it's not exactly the language that you would have crafted, that you had in mind, but it is the compromise that we worked out, and I definitely think that whether folks think it didn't go far enough or it even went too far, I think this is still a concrete improvement for residents in Bowling Green, and so I hope that we can all support it as such. And at this time, if there are no further comments, I would like to move that we amend Ordinance 8594 with the language provided by the administration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Kay, would you please call the roll?
McComber,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Osbacher,
Yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Jeffers.
Yes.
The motion passes. Ordinance 8594 is amended to include revisions to penalty section 94.99B.
And Mr. President, just as a follow-up, I know that some members of council had been interested in seeing this moved along more quickly tonight so that we could have more time to give to the administration to implement its educational program and make sure that folks are aware of exactly what they need to do prior to the academic school year in particular returning. So I did want to ask council members how they felt about speeding up the timetable a little bit, if they wanted to see that happen.
I'm in favor of doing that, of waiving the rules and giving this as third reading this evening. As you mentioned, Daniel, I think that it is important to allow, the administration to communicate, with the residents and incoming students and incoming renters, what the changes have been. I think that it's also important to note that there is not an emergency clause attached to this, so it will be 30 days from the time that it is approved before it is actually implemented. But I do think that the sooner we can get into that 30-day phase and begin the education process, we're much better off and hopefully going to get more voluntary compliance.
I concur with that.
I'm okay with that. I've got nothing against it. I mean, we've talked about this in a lot of detail on many different occasions. We've heard from the public on many different occasions. Even though some people are not completely happy with all the aspects of this, there's not a lot more to say. So I think there's reason to go ahead and try to have the third reading tonight and vote, and I could purge about 50 emails off my computer if we get done with this.
Why, there's a box of paper I'll be able to recycle after tonight. So yes, I'm really happy to move on and begin thinking about other things.
Sandy?
The public wants us to move on, and I think we need to move on.
Okay. Well, I concur as well. At this point, I would move to suspend the rules and give Ordinance 8594 its third reading.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Kay, would you please call the roll?
Roland?
We're voting for the bill or against
No,
the bill?
No,
we're
we're
just
voting whether to
suspending the
suspend the
rules.
rules.
Suspend the rules. I wanted to make clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes?
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
The motion passes. The rules are suspended for Ordinance 8594.
Ordinance number 8594 for third reading. Ordinance amending and adopting Chapter 94 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding refuse and recycling collection. I should have said 8594 as amended, so just to make sure I get that in the record.
Thank you, Kay. Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move to adopt Ordinance 8594
As amended.
as amended. Thank you, Kay.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Well, the one thing I wanted to say is throughout this discussion, it became evident early on that really John and Daniel and Sandy would have preferred a stricter ordinance, the not visible from the street rule. It was equally evident that Teresa and Mike and I don't know, maybe Bruce would have preferred a more modest ordinance that would have still allowed the trash containers to be placed in front of garages, in front of residences. So this really is a compromise solution. But the thing I kept thinking about was that true compromises require that both sides make meaningful concessions. And I think that this legislation approximately splits the difference between the two positions that were sincerely held by all the members of council, really except me. I was sort of opting for this option right off the bat. Maybe I'm the only one that's happy here about this. But it does, I think, it's a true compromise that splits the difference in sincerely held positions. And I also don't mean to over-dramatize this, but I keep looking at our federal government and thinking, not a darn thing gets done because people won't compromise. Nobody's willing to make a concession. And I'd like to think at our own little local level that maybe we're a little better than that. And that we can find some common ground if we search hard enough. And so I urge my fellow members of council to vote for this legislation.
Thank you, Bob. Any further discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes?
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Thanks to Daniel, and thank you, Bob, for talking about compromise. Because I know our public wants something passed, they want us to move on to bigger and better things. I will vote yes and make this unanimous, even though I wish it would have been harder. I mean, stronger, excuse me, stronger. So in the name of harmony and compromise, yes.
The motion passes. Ordinance 8594 is adopted. Thank you all very much.
Ordinances, legislation for third reading. Resolution number 3632 for third reading. Resolution amending the City of Bowling Green financial and debt policy.
Mr. President,
Mr. McComber.
I move to adopt Resolution 3632.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes?
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
The motion passes. Resolution 3632 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8527 for third reading. Ordinance accepting a utility easement from Mauer Rentals LLC.
I move to adopt Ordinance 8527.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Gordon?
Yes?
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes. The motion passes. Ordinance 8527 is adopted.
Ordinance number 8528 for third reading. Ordinance accepting utility easements from 115 East Court Street LLC and 223 Rentals LLC and Sky BG Properties LLC.
I move to adopt ordinance 8528.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question for Brian O'Connell. When would this work occur? This year?
Working with the property owner now on the electric and the sewer relocation. So we're hopeful it can move forward yet this year. If not, it would be maybe possibly this winter or early spring of next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
The motion passes. Ordinance 8528 is adopted.
Ordinances number 8524 and 25 come off the table automatically.
Mr. President,
Mr. Jeffers.
I move that we adopt ordinance 8524.
Second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I would just point out that this is a change in zoning for a property recently annexed. There was no controversy on this. I'll make this more or less the same comment on the next ordinance that's coming up, that this was changing our zoning code to allow some additional uses in, I believe it was M3 areas. And there was also, both of these issues were handled by the Planning Commission and no controversies were brought up.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, would you please call the roll?
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Jeffers?
Yes.
The motion passes. Ordinance 8524 is adopted.
Mr. President,
Mr. Jeffers.
I move that we adopt ordinance 8525.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Roland?
Yes.
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
The motion passes. Ordinance 8525 is adopted. Is there any other business to come before council this evening? Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session at the request of Ms. Treader to consider a real estate matter?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Kay, would you call the roll?
Zanfordino?
Yes.
Osbacher?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Jeffers?
Yes.
McComber?
Yes.
Roland?
Yes.
The motion passes. We will now adjourn to executive session. It is not expected that we will take any action this evening. Thank you all for attending tonight.